thanks for tuning in to Power Athlete Radio. To be a fly on the wall with two of the biggest names in the strength and conditioning game. This week on Power Athlete Radio, we bring you exactly that, an impromptu conversation between John Welbourn, Even-Esh, and Jim Steele. Set in Philly, this trip was not a Rocky homage or your classic Welbourn cheesesteak hazing. Tex and John were all business all weekend as they put on a sports-specific application seminar and met with Zach and Jim to tour the UPenn training facility. When the guys sat down to shoot the shit, an opportunity to capture even a fraction of the knowledge was seized. However, it's disorganized as fuck. That's why I'll be introducing the segments as we go, in an attempt to live up to the self-proclaimed title, the world's premier podcast in strength and conditioning. This is episode 180. Oh hey, it's me again. Time to kick off the episode with food and Philly. What better way to open the discussion with three very large coaches and one hungry hobbit? Sorry, Tex. Then we learned that John is still recognized, not for his NFL career, but for being in Every Second Counts. Did you know Zach and John have more in common than just their zodiac sign? So many degrees of Bill Belichick coming up.
As far as we're driving over here, I'm like driving by.
I saw you pointing.
Yeah, you see how we made like a weird detour?
Yeah.
I was like, dude, I used to live right there.
I saw you pointing and text.
Well, the light was green, and
I didn't honk.
So it's mentioned that we're sitting here and stoked to come back to Philly, and we had a pretty good seminar today, man. We had like 30 people that we basically fried their mind with basic strength and conditioning.
Did you get a chance of getting good food?
Yeah.
You posted a picture of a steak place, wasn't it?
We went to a barbecue place, Terrasao.
I know.
Which is down in Fishtown, which is ironic because when I lived here, that was like the ghetto, and now all of a sudden it's like this gentrification,
Right.
and like so.
Well, just like Schuylkill is now too.
Yeah. So now that we got recommended this barbecue place, we went in and I took the picture of the no steroids, no hormones, just as more of a joke. But I was like, "Do you have anything with steroids and hormones? You don't have any of that?" Okay. So we went there, and it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I took Tex, went to the Continental, and I've been meaning to take him and hit some.
I ate there with K-Star.
Well, K-Star called me and was like, "Where should I go?" I'm like, "Where are you?" So I sent him the Continental.
I remember.
What's the kind? I never.
It was
So
legendary.
the Continental's right on Market and 2nd.
Uh-huh.
It's like a little boutique place. It kind of looks like a diner. They serve steaks and stuff. And
Okay,
they had
that's
this drink that they made a martini with Tang, and they called it a Buzz Aldrin. And when I lived out here, we used to go get them, and it was just Tang and vodka. And I was like, "Oh, let's get those." It had Midori and a bunch of shit. I was like, "This thing sucks." Either that, or I don't know any better.
Were you able to go out when you played for the Eagles?
Oh yeah.
Were people interrupt you all the time when you're eating, or?
funny you ask, actually. We got stopped this morning at breakfast by a woman, and she's like, you like this guy in this CrossFit documentary I just watched.
No, she said, she goes, "I just watched this." She goes, "You look just like this guy that's in this documentary I watched on Netflix."
Oh, the CrossFit Games one.
Yeah,
and you're in that.
Yeah, Every Second Counts.
Yeah, I started it. I didn't.
Yeah, it was
finish
one of the stars.
But there's another one.
Well,
Maybe I just saw
the Rich Froning one. Well, there's Rich Froning.
Well, there's
I
another
didn't
one
see
on Netflix, which is like...
I saw the games where they do the games.
The CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
So in
But
2008,
it was a documentary about the games.
Yeah, they made one called Every Second Counts.
Okay.
That I'm in, and
Yes.
so I was. At the time, I was living in Newport Beach. I had to drive like 45 minutes to Carson to go train Athletes Performance. It was the only like gym in the area, and I got so fucking burned out at driving to Carson, which is like up to 405, which is like the equivalent of like it could be anywhere from 20-minute drive to a 3-hour drive.
Oh man!
And so I just got burned out, and so I started training at this CrossFit gym. And all of a sudden, I'm like getting ready to go to training camp. Everything's all gearing up, and this guy's like, "Hey, do you want to do this thing called the CrossFit Games?" I was like, "What the fuck's that?" He's like, "It's a bunch of workouts you go do." And I was like, "Yeah, fuck it, let's do it." And he's like, "Where is it?" He's like, "Oh, it's up in Northern California." And I was like, "Well, who am I competing against?" He's like, "Oh, it's CrossFit." I was like, "Fuck, I'll go win this thing." I hadn't done any CrossFit. I didn't even really, I just been lifting at this gym.
Right.
So I show up, and like, it's like, I got like a 800-meter fucking trail run through the mountains with these 135-pound little CrossFit dudes.
Right.
And I'm like a week away from training camp. I'm like,
Oh, you were playing?
Yeah. So I'm like 312 pounds, ready to go, and I'm fucking competing in like these games, you know.
How many pro football players today would even try it?
Well, this is my ego where I'm like, fuck it, I'll show up and win this thing.
Yeah.
And they wanted to make it, and the guy was like, "Hey, we'll make a documentary." I'm like, "Fuck it, come film it. I don't give a shit."
How'd you do?
Out of like 200, I came in the 80s, I think.
but you won the.
I bet you're the biggest dude out
I
there.
think you win that
Scared
one
the crap
event.
out of
The
you.
next biggest dude was like 202 pounds.
Wow, he thought
And
he
then
was jacked. He thought he was jacked, and then John walks out
And then
there.
I was 308 or 310, and then I come home, and then 6 days later I leave and go play for the New England Patriots.
You played for the Patriots too.
Yeah.
Oh man, do you want to know
That's
who's the Bill Belichick's with the Patriots, right?
Yeah.
Did I tell you? Check out this funny story. Back when I used to have a phone at the gym, Bill Belichick calls the gym. Swear to you.
kidding.
Swear to you. So his son.
Number?
I was going to say that.
Check this out. I think his son was playing lacrosse at Rutgers, and then maybe senior year was the kicker. So he calls, leaves a voicemail. I never left the phone on. I would never answer the phone. I would just check voicemails, call back. So he says, yeah, like with that grumpy voice, Bill Belichick and, my son's in the area and I want to get him some training. And I'm like, this is a joke. This has to be a joke.
Right.
Then I'm like, his son is in the area. And then I'm trying to put two and two together. And I'm like, but they've got strength coaches. And then whatever he says, all I remember is he goes, call me back. He doesn't leave a number or nothing. He goes, call me back. So I contacted, I think, somebody on their website for the Patriots in charge of some of the marketing or the relations or something. And they go, if Mr. Belichick wants to get a hold of you, he'll call you. That's what they said. I was like, damn, he said, call him back. They're like, he'll call you.
Huh.
I mean, that's Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I kind of dug him because he was so
Straight shooter, right?
yeah.
Serious.
Like, I mean, he'd walk by and never say hello to you. I mean, I didn't really expect him to say hello. Like, other people were butthurt by it, but I'm like, dude.
Everybody's very sensitive.
That organization.
No.
Like, people know that, like, Bill
That's what
Belichick
it
is
is.
probably not even going to look at you, and if he has to look at you, it's probably just going to
But then again, you're going to win, so who cares?
Yeah, and you know what? I was
Guarantee
there.
it,
I was
right?
so excited to be there. I'm like, fuck, I hope we win.
Was that the last team you played for?
Yeah, and then I got
Okay.
hurt. I got hurt in the last preseason game.
Oh.
And then, so I fucked up my knee, and I had not played in an NFL season where I hadn't started. I'd started my entire NFL
Right.
career, and I'd never, been cut and the whole deal. So all of a sudden, I'm going in, I get fucking hurt in the last preseason game, and I'm like, my knee's fucked up, and I should have gone in and said something, because they probably would just injury settlement out, but I just didn't say anything. I figured, like, fuck it. I'll make the team, and then I'll practice, and then I'll say something after the first game, and then we'll fucking deal with it, because then I'm vested and I get my money. So they call me with, like, 1 minute left before they cut at, like, 3:59. They're like, we got to call you into the office. Coach Belichick wants to talk to you. I'm like, fuck me. So I go in there, and he's like, hey, John, I got to cut you today, but I'm going to re-sign you tomorrow. We got to make a roster move, so I need you to hang out for a day. I was like, okay, no problem. So I get cut. All of a sudden, all these teams call, and when I didn't go sign with a team, they either figured something was up, because when I came back in, they're like, we need to put you through a physical. When the doctor put me through, it was like, your knee's fine. He's like, dude, what's wrong with your knee? I'm like, I don't know, dude. He's like, I think you chipped off a piece of bone. Actually, I did chip off a piece of bone. I got stuck in the joint. And my
How'd that feel?
Oh, it was fucking painful. I like it
would lock up on you?
It wouldn't bend. And then all of a sudden I go, "Koom," and I would feel it pop out. My knee would bend. And
Texas made a good face over
and then the guy goes, why didn't you say something? I'm like, dude, I have never been fucking cut. I've started my whole NFL career. I didn't think you guys were going to fucking get me like this. The guy's like, dude, if you had said something, I was like, fuck. I was just going to gut it out. And the guy's like, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, fuck it, I'm out.
Next up, John responds to Jim Steele's questions about the best opponent he's ever come up against. Things get a little weird when Welbourn spills a secret about how he went full serial killer, tearing out the picture of his opponent from a game program and pasting it to his bathroom mirror. Have a listen.
Who's the best guy you ever played against?
Warren Sapp, right?
Oh, fuck him. He's a fat piece of shit. I hope
Whoa.
he is. He sucked.
He's in the Hall of Fame.
Let me tell you, dude.
All right, whatever. Who's the best guy you
The fucking
played?
Hall of Jokers. The Hall of Fame is a lot of publicity, and dudes go out and they campaign for that shit.
Decided by the press, too.
Yeah, and so they go out, and I watch guys go out and they would publicize themselves. They go out there and they see the guys before they go, oh yeah, man, I'm having the best best year of my career, and I'm like, no, you're not. You fucking suck. He's like, well, if I tell enough people that, they'll believe me.
Right.
And I will watch
Like
people.
the premier strength and conditioning podcast.
It's the big lie.
It's the big lie.
So I played against the best the NFL had, And surprisingly, the one guy that I remember as being the most difficult, the one guy that I literally geared up for, most people don't even know, is a guy named Keith Hamilton.
I think I remember the story.
He played D tackle for the Giants, and so they called him the Hammer.
Was he like a farm boy?
No, he's a big black dude. He was fucking ghetto as fuck. And he had all of his kids.
The premier unfiltered strength and conditioning podcast.
He was a scary dude, man. He had all of his like kids, like baby pictures, all tattooed on his arms and shit. He had a gang of kids, and like he was a mean fucking dude.
Literally a gang of kids.
Yeah, I mean, literally a gang of kids. He had a bunch of kids. Like he had like 6 faces, and I was like, you got all like 6 kids. But so his move, he was a big dude. He was like 6'5", 6'6", like 290 pounds. He would just stand straight up and give you his chest. And like dudes would sit back and punch him with everything, and he would just take it. Once the hands got on him, he would do this thing called the forklift, where he would grab you by the wrists and just lift you off and fucking throw dudes, and then he'd sack the quarterback. And he played with like Strahan, and when all like the Giants teams were really good. So everybody knows Strahan and Pepper Johnson and all these dudes. Mm-hmm. So when I came in, I started at right tackle, and then I got hurt, and I missed my first year, and I got a chance to watch the guy who was drafted the round ahead of me, same year, the guy named Doug Brzezinski from Boston College. Doug played guard, and I watched Keith Hamilton, aka the Hammer, like, was Doug's nightmare. He literally like took his hands, lifted him off, put him over his head, and like threw him back as he sacked the quarterback. So the next year I come in, I beat Doug out, and I go start, and I'm watching this dude on film, and I'm like, holy fuck, dude, this dude's killing people. How do people not know about this guy? How's
it's like Daryl Grant with the Redskins back when they had Manley. Daryl Grant was so good, and nobody
knew about this dude.
How come nobody knew about him?
Because of some of the big name guys, the Strahan, the publicity handles.
That's what I'm wondering. Like,
here's the thing.
You got to market
the
yourself.
certain thing about the NFL is you can be really good, but if you fuck dudes up too bad, people won't vote for you for the Hall of Fame. They won't vote for you in the Pro Bowl. And this dude was, he fucking was a badass. And he'd fuck dudes up. And, NFL dudes are little bitches. If you make somebody look bad, they're going to be like, fuck you, I'm not voting for you. That shit happened to me. I was the number 2 rated guard on National for a couple years, and I didn't make the Pro Bowl. And dudes that were less players than me made over the Pro Bowl, and I remember being like, the fuck? And they're like, they're never going to vote for you. You go out there and fucking hurt people.
Plus you're nasty. Yeah, you're nasty.
And this is their way of fucking you over after the fact. So I go play against Keith Hamilton, and I remember being like, I'm going to knock this motherfucker out. So when I grew up, I had dreams of being a fighter and a boxer, and like always thought so. Like this was my opportunity, and like I took the Tyson approach where I was gonna just fucking hurt people early and try to get them to quit. And for 99% of my career, it worked, except for this dude. And I would literally give him everything I had. I could headshots, fucking try to split his head open, punch him as hard as I could, and the dude was like the Terminator. He just never fucking stopped.
Damn.
And so he would grab my hands and try to get him off. But like I was pretty good on the hand replace to the point where we actually in the off season developed a drill called the hammer, where dudes would do this and we would grab their hands and guys had to replace and do all this crazy shit. I remember one time he grabbed my hand and I went to rip it off. He was holding on to it. I was fucking doing.
Was he a wrestler? I wonder if he was a wrestler.
No, he was just a fucking monster. So I knew the first time I played against him, and I never told anybody this. But we had like a gnarly fight, and I remember sitting there, I was so fucking mad after the game, I tore his picture out of the fucking program, and I put it in my wallet.
Yeah.
And it was like straight up like Rocky
Drago
style. I took it, and I fucking put it on my mirror with a piece of like chewing gum, kind of like sticky stuff. I stuck it on there, and literally that fucking dude. Every morning I got up, I was in there brushing my teeth. I'm like, today's the day, and that's when I got up every morning to train. And I remember like my people would come in, or they would in there, and they'd be like, "Why is there like a small picture of a black dude in your in your deal?" And I'm like, it's Keith Hamilton. I'm gonna fucking get him this year. And every year I would go play against him. And finally, after like 3 years of playing against him, he like after the game was like always fucking pissed off. I remember finally he was like, "You're like the only motherfucker that ever brings it."
Yeah.
He was like, and I remember we had this like weird like respect going. And I remember even like years later, people were like, fucking Hammer, you're actually the only dude that Hammer ever said would fucking respect business.
You earned his respect.
That was going to be my kind of follow-up question, like post-game. Like clearly that first time you took it away from the game and it was motivation for the season, but was there ever a game when y'all actually like kind of shook hands and did the old kind of
Yeah,
mutual respect.
that's years late. Like after we played over the course of years.
I mean, was he making a lot of tackles, a lot of hits, or was he just?
but the problem was is he would push the pocket so hard.
See, that's what they don't understand.
That-
the quarterback he feels all that.
and then Strahan would fucking come around and make these big plays, and all these other guys. But he was, dude, the guy was a beast, and I knew that of the 16 games we were going to play, there was going to be 2 games in that year where I knew that there was a dude that was never going to quit. Because my whole deal was I was going to go early, suicide pace, try to hurt dudes early, and then get them to quit. And a lot of times guys did. But I knew there was 2 games that I was probably going to fuck myself up playing. And I was the guy. And so Keith Hamilton. And, I mean, shit. One of my favorite stories was you guys are obviously familiar with Bruce Smith.
Sure.
Yeah. So we're playing the Redskins down the very last game of the season in Washington, and we run this like fourth quarter. We run this little kind of like rollout deal. Quarterback comes out, and I go peel back this way, and all of a sudden I see Bruce Smith, big long fucking stride, like he's chasing, and I fucking peel back and fucking give him everything I have. Like literally helmet to helmet, and of course Donovan fucking throws it in the ground like fucking dead ducks it all the time. He's the worst. Just dead ducks it. And I mean, dude, it would happen all the time.
Yeah,
and dude's
that
wide
was a
open.
big thing in Philly.
Yeah, it was wide open. He just throw it at his feet, and I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding me? There was nobody around." So I hit Bruce, and I like fucked myself up on it. Like I got up and was like, "Oh fuck, that hurt." Yeah. And I look over, and Bruce is just laid face down on the ground.
Yeah.
And I get up because it's third down, could be fourth. They're moving teams off, and I'm jogging off, and I'm kind of like jogging backwards. And Bruce is still laying there. He's not up.
No way.
And the play is like in, kind of in front, and then all of a sudden, like he kind of like pushes himself up, and I'm sitting there, and I'm on the sideline. I'm like, he's still not up. The Runyon was there, and my Runyon was like, well, he's not up. He pushes himself up, and the play's going here. He just starts walking this way, and he walks to the sideline, takes his helmet off, walks through the tunnel, and mind you, we still had like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes after the game.
He's done.
Walks into the tunnel and walks out. Game's over. Looking for him because we were always, Bruce Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember playing against Ted Johnson and Bruce. I remember in Buffalo. My brother was a Buffalo fan, so this was always a big deal for me to play against Bruce. And I remember him. I mean, dude, he made so many people look stupid.
The spin move.
I mean, and that weird one we used to call the Matrix, where he would like jump inside and dudes couldn't hit him. So he walks off, and I'm like, where the fuck did Bruce go? Never seen him. Right after the game, we're after the buses. Don't see him. Nothing. Everybody's out. So all of a sudden, the season ends. We go to the playoffs, the whole deal. I'm at the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden, I'm at the bar ordering a drink, and I look over, and I can see this dude staring at me. It's fucking Bruce Smith, and he like points at me, and it's like,
I got my eyes on you.
right, yeah. And I'm like, and all of a sudden, I see him come fucking walking around the bar.
You're getting ready.
Right? And I'm thinking like, oh fuck, dude, this is gonna go down. Right? Like Bruce Smith's gonna come get me. He looks over and he's like, what are you drinking? I was like, I think tequila and some whatever. He's like, 2. And like, yeah, we like took a drink, and I'm like, so fuck, what the fuck is gonna happen, right? So we finished the drink, and he goes, he played 19, 20 years, whatever it was.
He was something else.
Yeah, he's like, I played 20 years in the NFL. I fucking beat the best, all pro. Fucking went to this. It's giving me this whole thing, and I'm like, yeah, you're fucking Bruce Smith. And he goes like, the last play of my NFL career, you knocked me unconscious.
Oh shit!
Because you fucking knocked me out. He goes, I was out. You
And that
fucking
was
hit me the hardest thing. And he goes, I literally woke up, and all I could hear was, it's time to go. He walked out, went in the locker room, took his shit off, put on his clothes,
Retired.
got in his car, and drove home, and never went back to the stadium.
Wow.
And that was it. And that was the last time he ever played football. And he's like, the end of my fucking career, you fucking knocked me out. And he goes, that's exactly the time I knew it was time to go.
He knew it.
I feel like...
And we sat there and had drinks.
Wow.
And I was like, at your Hall of Fame speech, can you just invite me to show up?
Can you mention that play?
I was like, can you just mention it? Can you just fucking like, I'll sit out there and you just fucking throw something out and be like to my boy John, like something. And of course, he was like, he said he would, but I never got a call. I never got an invite. And there was never anything.
Athletes,
but I remember
they'll remember
sitting there and being like, probably the best defensive lineman I think to ever play. Bruce is, he's got to be in the conversation, the best to ever play the game. And the
pass
last
rushers.
play, hands down, one of the best pass rushers. and I knocked him out. So I was like, all right. And he's like, and he was always complimentary. He's like, you fucking play the game hard, and dudes respect you. And I was always good with that. I didn't need all the other accolades. Yeah. I didn't need the Pro Bowls and all the other hand jobs. The fact that people respected me enough to say that was good.
Yeah. They remember I always tell kids when I work with the young guys, right? I go, everything counts. I go, because you'll be 70 and you're going to remember your last game, your last match. You're going to remember that shit. It's hearing you say that, John, like that guy's going to be like, I went out. I went out unconscious. I went all out.
Yeah.
In this segment, Zach wants to know from Jim's perspective, what makes a great youth athlete? What is that X factor that is so difficult to define, but determines an athlete's success and longevity in sport? Translating that into success as an adult, never accepting complacency, should be the goal of every coach.
What do you think? What do you guys think, Jim? With you being at the college level,
Jim, how long you been here?
February of 1999. Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. I started coaching in '89.
I studied for this. I went back and listened to Jim's podcast with you guys, so I remember.
Is that right?
So, Jim, I'll ask both you guys. With you being here for 17 years about, and then John, with you being from college to NFL, I'm always trying to figure out, like, what makes the athletes that are great? Not so much, the genetic greatness or, like, whatever they're gifted with, but I'm looking for, there's certain kids, let's say we're working out, I'm the coach, it's you three guys, I'm always like, come on, Tex. I've always got to push you. Your mom's always got to make you breakfast. Your dad's always got to do everything, But then, John, you're always, like, I don't have to say anything to you. You're a grinder. Yeah. And then, Jim, you're, you know what I mean? Like, there's all these different mindsets. Yeah. What have you found is kind of like these key factors, and you're like, that guy's going to go far, that girl's going to go far in sport. I'm trying to dial that shit in because I feel when I look at training, I look almost more at how the training affects their psychology than the science behind it.
I always thought that people had to have some kind of hardship coming up in order to develop that. But then I got lacrosse kids here,
right,
who haven't had a lot of hardship as far as money and things like that, and they have a heart the big of Texas.
Yeah.
It's very tough to figure out.
Yep.
I still think you either have it inside you or you don't, and a great coach can get the fire come out a little bit. Some kids just need to be told, you can be something else.
Yeah.
You can be something. And you have a lot of potential, and you work really hard. But I think if they don't have it in them, it's pretty tough.
I do believe they got to go through
by the time
something.
They get to college. By the time they get to college. You have coaches, and I'm not necessarily saying here, where they say, we got to make them tough. Man, they're 19, 20. I don't know if you can make them tough. And my dad's he taught sports psychology at the University of Maryland for 40 years. And I ask him all the time, he's like, I don't know by that age if you can make them tough, or you can make them dedicated, or, you can bring it out.
I feel like I got tougher in my late teens, early 20s.
You probably had it in you. You just needed some challenges. You probably needed someone to say, or somebody as good as you to go against, or better than you that you had to reach for.
And get pissed off. Right. You got to get pissed off. Like, you got that old pissed off for greatness.
My deal is I didn't like to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hate
it. Yeah, you were very competitive.
Yeah, I mean, that's, but I grew up with two older brothers, and I think I fucking got my ass beaten, and I lost so much that it was upsetting to me to lose. And but what's crazy is I don't like to lose. I mean, even in college, like, I looked at, like, writing papers and grades and whatever, and I always think, what you get? Just fucking beat me. And, like, people are like, why are you pissed off? I got a better grade. I'm like, well, you fucking beat me. And they're like, we're not competing. I'm like, well, fuck, I don't give a fuck. We're playing checkers. Like, I don't want to lose in anything, and I didn't like losing in grades, and I was always like, well, you're an athlete. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
I didn't have that in my younger years.
Yeah, I just didn't like to lose. And then also, so when I got to the NFL, and I think I enjoyed playing the NFL more than college. When I played in college, I thought they always played me out of position because I always played tackle. And when I finally got to the NFL and I played tackle, I'm like, fuck, I hate playing tackle. Let me play inside where it's like a faster game. They let me play guard, and instantly I flourished. And then, of course, I go to the Chiefs, and what they need me to do, fucking play tackle. And I'm like, dude, for my entire career, I played out of most of my career, I played out of position. And they were like, well, you can do it. I'm like, yeah, that's not what I like to do. I like to, like, put the dude in front of me.
Guys right in your face.
Yeah, like it happens fast. Like this whole fight. Like I don't want a patient. I want to start the fight early.
Right.
And I really liked the fact that I could train in the weight room and I could see the progress I've made in here and directly see the correlation on the field, which was addicted to me. Like, so wait a minute, if I squat heavier, if I lift, if I train, if I do more, I get better on the field, and I think that was addicted towards me.
Right.
You know, whereas a lot of guys I don't think are able to translate, and that's what I've basically spent the last 8 or 9 years doing, is trying to develop a training system that takes what you do here in the weight room and basically allows you to translate it on the field. And I realized
and you can see it right away.
Yeah, I mean, but it's based on this idea of movement and understanding, like, you know, position, posture, and all these things that I developed in my NFL career that I could reinforce in training. And I talked to people. I mean, we blew 30 minds this weekend, just telling them about foot position, and this is what posture and position looks like in full range of motion. And people don't see the
correlation to you pointed out.
Yeah, if you're overloading this movement pattern with weight, then you're basically building, you know, neuromuscular pathways that are going to become your default. So the default has to become perfect, so that all of a sudden I go from the closed loop to open loop. You know, the closed loop being the skills we develop, the open loop being how I develop and use those skills in relationship to sport. And, you know, we're talking to people about it, and they're like,
I never thought of it like that.
But the key word, and we presented at the seminar, is opportunity.
Yeah.
So
that's
the game is the opportunity to then not think about it. It's just
I had
because you've done the work.
Right.
I had a great
focus on the game.
So when I found out I was having kids, I reached out to all these different people that I know, and I'm sad I didn't reach out to you as I'm fucking kicking myself now. But I reached out to different people that I knew that were fathers that were successful in other ways, like Stu McGill. You know, we were buddies, and we had him on the podcast, and we emailed back and forth. And I called him up. I said, "Hey, Doc, I'm having kids. Trying to you know, think about, like, you know, movement and this." And I was like, you know, anything that you regretted as a father. And all of a sudden he got real quiet. I'm like, hello? He's like, I'm actually choked up. I'm tearing up right now. And I was like, ooh, okay, let's talk. And he goes, yeah, I have a lot of regrets as a father. And I was like what? He's like, I was too hard on my kids.
Huh? Really?
And the crazy thing about this, right? And we had this amazing conversation. He's like, and then I started talking with different people. And then I asked him, I was like, well, what'd your kids do? My son's a lawyer, my daughter's a doctor, and he's going through this whole thing. I started asking different parents, and every one of them that had successful kids all made the same thing. I was too hard on my kids.
Joe
successful.
Yeah, Joe
DeSantis says that all the time.
So the crazy part is, and I even asked my dad. My dad's like, you know, I was hard on you guys, and he's like, you know, I you know, when I watched you play in the NFL, I was so proud and get to go out. And he goes, I wish I had done more with you guys and been around more, but he's like, you know, I chose to work so your mom could stay at home.
Yeah, sure.
And he's like, so I worked, you know, 80, 100 hours a week, and like, you know, people ask me all the time, I'm like, I don't remember seeing my dad when I was a kid.
Yep.
Only on the weekends he would come and bang on the window. We had to go out, and Saturdays work for gardening.
Yep.
So we were like manual labor, and then Sunday we had to wash all the cars.
We just had this email
at
exchange.
6 a.m.
How good hard work feels.
6 a.m. My job was that we had to go out and wash the car, and because I was the youngest, I had to clean all the rims because I had small hands. So we had to literally wash all the cars and like this whole fucking deal. And but like that was universal to all these parents that all had successful kids that all been there. They're like, I was too hard on my kids.
Yeah.
I demanded so much of them. I was so strict. And then the funny part was when I talked to people that are successful, every one of them says the exact same thing. My parents were hard on me.
Dude,
they demand a lot. I've never met, and then you meet people that are, I mean, you know, hey, I have, you know, drugs, alcohol, these different things. And I'm like, and you know what their quote, the question is? I wish my parents were harder on me.
Yeah.
I wish they fucking,
Truth.
I wish they did.
Kids like discipline, man. They can fight against it, but they like that.
They need
structure and discipline.
Yes, as a teacher, I remember that.
But,
you know,
but don't you think that's, I mean, Zach, when I listen to a lot of what you tell me,
yep.
and
I'm tough on my
kids. I'm
kids.
so glad I don't own a commercial gym anymore. So I owned a gym, and I sold my gym because a little piece of me died every day because I wanted it more than the people wanted it.
Yeah.
Right, and it got to the point where
and
I was
you were taking it home with you. Why is this guy doing what?
Well, yeah.
Why is he squatting? Why is he doing
emotional
core
stress?
And I would fucking get on people. I'd be like,
Yeah,
you're fucking hurting my feelings.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've talked to you and you don't fucking do it. And people are like, it's not that important to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, then why the fuck are you here? Why just want to get sweaty?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, you can't be around citizens.
When you
man.
operate on,
You can't be around citizens.
We call them civilians. I'm like, I can't be around civilians.
When you operate on a level 10 and then you're hanging around 7s, I always tell, the way I equate it is I say to people, I go, what's harder? The most brutal squat workout you had or that argument you had with your girlfriend? Like that argument, I'm like, because emotional stress, it will destroy you. And, you know, you guys always joke around, you're like, butthurt. And I remember in like an earlier podcast, you said something to the effect of like, great, now the internet is going to sue me. You know, we joked like that. So that's where we're at.
But there's a way different deal. Like, people ask me all the time when they go, who's the best player you ever play against? I only remember the struggle and I only remember the negatives.
Right, not the
so
guys who
I can
killed.
tell you all like the thousands of plays and the 100 career starts. I can only tell you that my losses. And I remember the people that got better at me. I can't tell you all the great plays. And I remember my brother still laughs about this. I'd always call him after the game, and he'd always call and be like, "How's it going on the bus?" And I'd always like, "How'd it look?" He's like, "You did pretty good." I'm like, "Yeah, I was lucky today." And he would always laugh. And I remember he's like, "How is it that you spent an entire career being lucky and catching a dude on his off day?" And I'm like, "I'm just lucky." Like, and he's like,
Yeah, but if you don't say that, then you feel like, oh, now I'm satisfied.
"Yeah." I mean, I caught a lot of dudes, and my brother always laughs. He's like, "Man, I never met anybody that caught so many good players slipping."
Well, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
And it was.
Coming up, Zach presents an excellent training question about the evolution of your average entry-level athlete and kids asking about deloading. What? Oh, and NFL stories for days. I think the takeaway is hit hard and teabag harder. I'll let you figure it out.
Those deals, whenever people ask me about who, the funny one, and I think I might have told you this, is who was the guy that played for Chicago and then played for Dallas? Super crazy dude. You remember
What position?
defensive lineman.
Summer's question.
Yeah, no,
Not Peppers. He didn't.
no, he's a big black dude. He was certifiably crazy, 5150. He was in Chicago, then he went to Dallas, and he was a beast.
Who was that?
Summers would know. Alonzo Spellman.
Oh yeah, Spearman.
Yeah, Spellman. And
I don't know. I thought it was Spearman.
yeah, Spellman.
Yeah.
So we're playing against him in the Cowboys, and like he was fucking pushing us pretty hard, and I saw him run into the play, and he slowed down, and I fucking dipped and fucking tried to knock him out around the pile, and he fucking went down, he fucking got up, and he punched me in the face and ripped my chin strap, and fucking spun my helmet to where I was looking out the eye hole. And I remember just turning, walking back
To the huddle.
and I was like, yeah, my fucking chin strap was broken, and I was like, you know what, I'm never gonna do that one again. I'm like, I learned my fucking lesson. I'm like,
That shit's funny.
and then the other one is we were playing Redskins.
Punched me.
We were playing the Redskins, and they had this big high-priced free agent, fucking Redskins always do. And I this dude, I can't believe they paid this dude $1 gazillion. And so it's not Dana Stubblefield or the other guy; it was some other dude. And so I come out and I'm hitting the guy, and the guy didn't want to play that day. I mean, it was obvious. And so, I see that. I'm a young dude. I'm going to fucking make this dude pay, make him look bad. So all of a sudden, the pile's there. I'm fucking driving, fucking throw him over the pile. As he goes over the pile, I dive over the pile and spear him in the ribs. And I fucking get up and I fucking teabag him.
I think I heard the story.
Yeah, so that was the fucking biggest deal. Like you wait as the dude goes to get him, you pop up real fast and you just wipe your leg over and fucking wipe your nuts on his helmet. So the teabag is like the most disrespectful thing. So all of a sudden the dude fucking gets pissed, and we're in the huddle, and he's at the line, and he starts praying for me. God, he does not know what he's doing, and he starts saying this prayer, and he's praying for me. And Trey Thomas is next to me. He's like, dude, you better stop this shit. That motherfucker's playing with you. He's bringing God into this. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, you fat motherfucker. And I start yelling at Trey, and Trey's like, you need to fucking do it. He's fucking praying to you. I'm like, shut the fuck up. And
you're at the line?
Yeah,
When is this happening?
We're in the huddle.
Oh, okay.
Right, so we turn to run up, and the dude is literally praying for me.
Yeah.
He's praying, Jesus, he does not do what, he does not know what he's doing, and he's praying, having this talk with God. And Trey's over there like this, well, shut the fuck up. So all of a sudden, the ball snaps. I take a step to go hit the dude. The dude has the power of fucking God commands me. The dude runs through my helmet. My head goes, fucking knocks me down, fucking tackles the ball, carry it back to the field. I'm like, lucky fucking play. Trey's like, you better make good with this shit. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. So we get back up, same play, exact same thing, dude. And this time I didn't put my head, like I hit him, and the dude just literally drove me right in the ball carrier. And like in 2
Should let
plays,
sleeping dogs lie. Yeah.
exactly. And so all of a sudden we punt the ball, and he was like, "We gonna have to do this the rest of the day?" I'm like, "No, we're good. I won't make you look bad another play because I don't want to play today." And sure enough, we came over, and I was fucking over there. I'm like, "Come on, my baby, come on, my darling!" Like dancing with him like the whole way. I'm like, "I'm not making you look bad. We're all friends. I'm not gonna hit you." And I went out there, and that we jokingly call that brother-in-law. I'm like, "This is your brother."
I win this play, you win this. The next
I
play.
was like, we were out there just stalemating each other, and I remember being like, I was like, dude, and everybody's like, what the fuck happened? I'm like, dude, fucking, this guy got the power of God behind him. I don't want to fucking anger God anymore. And sure enough, those 2 plays, I was like, and then I realized if some dude's having a bad day, just let him have a bad day. The last thing you want to do is fucking go after somebody and make them bow up and pride up, and then fucking come and make you have a bad day. And there were other guys, like, and then that was a great lesson I learned. I'd go and, like, some days guys don't want to play. And you know what? If they don't want to play, that's fine. I'm not going to make you look bad. Whereas early in my career, I try to like fucking throw them and hurt them and do shit. And then the last thing you want to do is get a guy to bow up with some pride and fuck you up and start praying for you.
Damn, praying for God.
Dude, the guy,
Jesus.
He's like, Jesus. He doesn't know what he's doing. And I was like, shit, and me, I'm like, fuck you, fuck him,
I got a training question for you, Jim. Since you've been here since 99, it's 2016. Talk about how training's changed, how you're training the athletes differently, not because you know more, you've been through more, but just because kids are just different. I'm going to give an example. I feel like if we're at Division I school, so you're getting a more highly qualified kid who's athletic, but kids are just, I look back at I look at kids now, and I used to not train them till like 8th grade. Then it became 7th grade, then 6th grade. I've got kids where I'm like, shit, dude, they were like genetically, they fucked their bodies up so much with all this fake food that they eat that we're so far behind the 8 ball that I can't even intervene. If I can't have them live with me and feed them differently and change their lifestyle, they're going to be slow, immobile, and weak. I want to hear, how are you training differently? Because kids are different. Psychologically, they're different. Physically, they're different.
Yeah, I think kids don't want to train as hard or as heavy
as they used to.
Because they have all these other methods that they hear about and that they see on the internet.
So you're saying you want to sue YouTube?
Yeah, really. Because they see, why aren't we doing suspension training? Or why aren't we doing... this with these bands, or why aren't we doing this and that, or yoga, or why aren't we doing yoga now?
How much is the West Side dynamic band stuff? Do you get a question about that a lot?
No.
Why aren't we doing accommodating resistance? Mm-hmm. Nothing.
Not at all. No. Kids aren't it. When I was coming, now it's different places though now. So
in '99,
where I always
there were
had
no strength coaches,
scholarship kids and stuff who were into lifting. And they knew the top power lifters. They know the bodybuilders.
Yes.
They knew who in the NFL was really strong.
That's right.
That kind of stuff.
That's true.
Not so much anymore. It's you would think it'd be the other way around with more information out there, but it's almost
not.
too much. And then a lot of the parents are more involved with ideas. And some of the parents have
they call you up?
No, they don't call me up, but it's more like...
I couldn't imagine a parent calling you on the phone.
personal trainers, and I've never talked to a parent. I talk to parents after games and stuff.
Hey, Coach Steele, I had this idea. I saw this on YouTube. What do you think about incorporating this training? You're like, click.
Oh, I'm totally politically correct.
Well, somebody was saying...
We have 3 people to listen to this podcast.
Yeah, they were like, dude... How come I never tell the football coach how to run these plays or the wrestling coach how to do this? But they're always telling me we don't let parents allowed in the gym ever, and that shit makes things a lot better.
Yeah.
But kid, I'm not going to mention his name, but he goes, my best football players was back in the day when the quarterback would train with the lineman.
I saw Boomer Esiason.
He would
at the
power
University of Maryland doing behind the necks.
Yeah.
Could you imagine a top round draft pick, or he was an All-American, doing seated behind the necks?
So here's the question too, right? So I'm going to say back in the day, that was a lot of stuff that was in vogue. We benched. We didn't have safety bars. We didn't have Swiss bars. We didn't have any of that shit.
Right.
were kids all fucked up with shoulders, this, that, back in the late 90s, early 2000s?
Listen, I always tell the story. We'd have one guy blow out a knee.
Yeah.
When I was in college, one guy would blow out a knee, you just wouldn't see him again.
So what's going on?
That was it.
Well,
one guy would have I don't know.
trying to wrap my head around this, that we train smarter. I don't know if we supposedly have better training, better prepared, but back when I was in high school, nobody was like, dude, I have to get Tommy John, or my shoulder's torn, my knee. Yeah. You never heard that. I hear a lot of high school kids, almost every college athlete I work with has had a meniscus, which is nothing crazy, but a lot of just issues. I had shit going on.
They diagnose them a lot better now too.
Well, they get MRIs.
They get MRIs, or every kid that I work with, like his doctor says the same shit. You've got Osgood Schlatter's. I'm like,
that's bullshit.
I know. I want to say, did your doctor say, show me a body weight squat? Yeah, I saw your knee when you were kneeling. I was like, damn, I wonder if...
kids will say, I had Osgood Schlatter's. I said, I squatted 820.
Yeah, like,
so
you just... And I feel like...
I ruptured a patellar tendon out on
fucking on the field.
And I still came back and played.
So what... this one coach, he goes, man, my best players were when the quarterback would be like, yeah, I'll bench with these guys. I'll power clean 315. It was now the quarterback's like, well, during winter workouts, I'm going to go to my guy and we're going to do our speed ladders and
shit. I watched a video of Staubach doing snatches the other day.
Who?
Roger Staubach.
Who's that? I don't follow the sports. Quarterback from...
Wait, he's like the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't
so Staubach was...
Roger Staubach?
Roger Staubach? No, so he was the quarterback for the Cowboys from 70 to 79.
He was Tom Landry's good guy.
Yeah.
Doing the original Power.
And he went to the Naval Academy and would take his leave to come to training camp.
Nice.
Yeah. And so he was just a bad, tough Captain America, they call him. But yeah, he would do everything that everybody else did. And the other day, Bob Ward, who was like one of the original strength coaches in the NFL, he's the one who brought martial arts in. He brought those obstacle courses where you react to lights and things like that. He brought overspeed training. All that stuff is Bob Ward. He doesn't get any credit. He had Staubach out there. They always had their weights outside, And he has a video on his YouTube of Staubach doing snatch. Not the greatest form in the world, but man, I'm so impressed because I'm thinking today guys would say my shoulders.
Right.
What am I going to do?
I'm going to hurt myself.
Do you think it's? I look at it like this. So football, they don't really get to play it as much year round, but like every other sport. So you got here we've obviously got wrestling, tennis, baseball. So if back in the day you'd play baseball just in the spring. So let's say you started playing baseball at age 8.
That's one thing that's changed.
By the time you're 16, you've had 7 or 8 seasons of baseball. But today you've had if you start at age 8 and then you're 16, you've had 3 seasons because you've got the actual spring season, you've got summer league, you've got fall.
Travel,
so now you've tripled your mileage. You've got like dog years on your body.
Yeah, you gotta play all the sports.
I think sometimes when you let them, let the kids know.
Oh my God, they have a batting coach, they have a pitching coach. It's too much.
Right,
it's too much.
If you let the kids know about shit, they take it. Meaning, I remember I was training a kid, and he was doing like a preseason. It was called like an all-star match. I think we were training on a Tuesday. He's like, should we deload? I go, deload for what? He goes, I got all-star match Saturday. I go, how many matches? 1 match. I go, it's fucking Tuesday, and it's not even a full match. It's like not even full periods. We're not deloading. And I feel that's why I'm so big with the psychology of shit.
I got rid of the term deload, and I fucking hate Jim Webler for it. I like first Jim, I remember I told him, I'm like, hey, fuck you and your deload. He's like, why? I'm like, no, it's not a deload, it's a reload. I won't use the term deload. And we're like, what about a deload? I'm like, no, we don't deload, we reload. And then I got an email the other day from this guy who was like, can you point me any any articles or any like peer-reviewed studies about deloading or I was like, I basically sent this guy back and I was like, are you fucking serious?
Here's my thing with that.
Do you believe that anybody has done any form of like peer-reviewed double-blind studies on the efficacy of actually taking a deload week.
Right.
I'm like,
of doing 40%.
I was like,
Here's what I was
That's
like.
max. Doing 40%.
but if you do 40, you're okay. But if you do 50,
50.
Oh yeah, too much.
And-
Can't recover from that. Yeah.
yeah.
I used to be
Tell the
super.
SEALs. Can't recover.
Right. I say that too.
And then
I
it's going to mess up your multi-year template 6 years.
That's
from now.
it.
You're going to be like, why did I
Macro,
take that?
micro, and all
Yeah.
that. It's going
Yeah,
to all
yeah.
messed up.
I used to be very regimented. I would do 3 weeks hard, then I'd be like, okay, this week we're gonna like just go kettlebells, body weight. And I remember this: a football player on like the middle of the week, he's like, "Coach, man, I just got to go heavy. I got to go heavy." And I was like, "No, we're deloading this week." Like we're deloading. But I remember they came back fired up. But then through the years, things changed in a way of I was like, I don't need to deload because this kid never destroys the
Life
gym.
will deload you.
Yeah, he's never
Life will give
destroying the
you-
gym in
Thank
such
you.
a way.
Thank you for
where-
saying that. I'm like, life throws you deload.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, I don't need to deload this kid because
I got to write it in.
right, he's never destroying the
But-
gym so hard. Or here's the other thing, like
But if you
Pearl
also
Prince.
design training in such a way that you have inherent periodization, which is like rep maxes. What I found is that as long as you're pushing the envelope, you're not as strong as you are every single day, but as long as I'm kind of pushing within the bounds, and we figured out that like, doing rep max is almost getting away from percentages and basing your percentages off of your rep max, like what you're able to do that on that specific day.
Right, every
It's really
day's
the only way-
different.
yeah.
But Prilpin's chart, right? It says like these are optimal. No, I just want to say this, right? So everybody's like, do Prilpin's chart. I'm
But
like,
the problem
but
is
you're not optimally.
Well,
that kid's not really optimally
you gotta
kicking
remember,
ass at that.
But you got to remember where Prilipin's chart came
from highly qualified
by
weightlifters.
Yeah, it was
But
right.
people
But you
are.
also got to remember that they took a huge cross section. I mean, it was a massive amount of lifters in Eastern Bloc type stuff. So then you got to realize that those guys were probably on drugs, and they were timing the lifts, and they basically found those based off of speed. So that if a guy lifted 8 reps, they knew that, or they viewed that those reps fit within their parameters or whether it was useful. So I read the whole history on that thing, and I was like,
It's
okay.
for highly
And then I
qualified
remember
lifters
when I went to
and
Westside, and I remember hanging out with Louis. I'm like, Louis, you're talking about Prilipin's chart. How come it's a 4 to 10? And he's like, well, if you're on a lot of tests, you have a higher
do 10.
central nervous system efficiency.
more
You get
reps.
4 reps. And I was like, so what do I get? He's like, you get 10 reps. And I was like, so those guys that are on the 3 grams a week, they get 4 reps, but I get 10.
why?
He goes,
Because
yeah.
they're outputting more per rep.
Because the higher your androgen profile, the more
Yeah.
testosterone you have, the more efficient your nervous system, which means that they get more out of less. Their 4 reps are
Just
complete.
yes.
Yeah, 100% recruitment. He's like, how many motor units are you recruiting? And I was like, I don't know. He's like, so that a non-geared lifter, a drug-free lifter needs more volume than the geared lifter.
Which is the exact opposite of what everybody
Which is the exact opposite of what
Right.
everybody thinks,
Yeah.
that when you're on drugs, you can handle more volume. It's not true.
It's the intent.
It's
like
because they are able to do more with less. And so it was, and I remember Louis.
more with less. They're putting more intensity into less
Did you hear
reps.
his podcast with Joe Rogan?
No, I didn't listen to it yet.
He is crazy.
Dude, but Louis is.
I was
love
telling you
Louis.
about.
Yeah,
And,
I do too. He's so cool to me when I call him. He's
Yeah.
so cool.
So-
to me.
It wound up being
I,
more about drugs than it was about training, unfortunately.
Well, that's
On the phone.
unfortunate. But,
with Joe Rogan, yeah,
so
it should have
I-
been more
with Joe
about.
Rogan.
It
So
should have been
the,
more about training. Joe Rogan and Louis.
So my West Side story is my buddy Kevin Doherty had West Side videos, and we were all trying to bench like 500 pounds in college, and so we're watching the fucking
The VHS tapes,
And
yeah.
at the end,
When Dave Tate was in them.
yeah, at the end there was a phone number that we would put up.
Yes,
Hey,
call.
He will call you back.
And yeah, so I pick up the phone, and I call Louis Simmons, and he picks up. Hey, this is hey, what's happening? What's up, bro?
And he's like, West Side.
Yeah,
West Side.
is Louis there? He's like, yeah, this is Lou.
Or Doris would answer.
No, Louis answered. I swear to God. And he goes, I was like, hey, I'm playing football at Cal Berkeley. I'm trying to bench 500 pounds. Okay. What are you doing for your training? So I take him through. He fucking writes me a program like, over the phone. I want you to do this and this, and heavy dumbbells, and you gotta have what's the heaviest dumbbells we got? I'm like, well, we got 175. Oh, that's okay. You'll hit it. I want you to do this, and he goes through and he takes me this whole thing. Wow. There was no accommodating resistance. I want you to do dynamic work, and I want you to base the dynamic work off of whatever your percentages were for that day, and we went through this whole thing. And it wasn't max effort in terms of singles. It was like, I want you to hit 5s, I want you to hit 4s, 3s.
Max effort 3, max effort 5.
Yeah. And so it was rep maxes, and then I want you to base it. I want you to start at 50%.
I like that. A max triple. I love that.
I like that too.
And
Fives,
that
threes.
program, I mean, it's the shit we use all the time for all my training. And so we go through it. It was assistance work with dumbbells. I want you to do a bunch of fucking hammer curls, a bunch of triceps. I want you to do
basics.
dips. And he was like, and he's like, do you do pull-ups? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what's your best pull-up? I'm like, I can do this. He's like, well, you could do 10 with 90 pounds between your waist on the dead pull-ups. He goes, you'll bench 500. Sure enough, I did 10 reps with 90 pounds between my legs, and I benched 500 pounds.
Yeah, he was dialed in with the numbers.
It was crazy.
He's like a beautiful mind for weightlifting.
So then years later, we go out to Westside Barbell, and I fucking meet him, and we're talking. I'm like, I know you don't remember this. I tell him the story, and he's like, fuck. He goes, I think I. And he's like, it was upsetting to him that he didn't remember, because I mean, because he usually remembers all this shit. And then, so we had like a great time and hung out. And he was, and then I went back, and I've been back a couple times, but the most recent time we went back last year, we like walked in, and Louis was like holding court. There was all these people, and he sees me, and he's like, comes over and gives me a hug, and we're like, talking, and he's like, tells people the story. And I was
he remembered the story?
No, well, he told people the story. I was like, I thought you didn't remember. He's like, I remembered it after you told me.
Oh, yeah.
And so we went through the whole thing. I mean, but
he changed my mind with training. I used to call him when I was a teacher, and I'd call him on my prep once a week, and he got me away from thinking just sets, just reps. He would talk about training Kevin Randleman.
Well, he talked about tonnage and volume over the course of a big amount of time.
What hit me the most was he spoke about, he was training like 3 or 4 wrestlers that were in the lightest weight classes, which was at the time 103 and 112. And he was talking about how the one kid who weighed like 106 benched 205. And I'm like, shit, I got a kid who weighs 185 who could barely bench 205. And then he would talk about, I get them out, I do the max effort lift, then they'll slam medicine balls for 5 minutes nonstop. Or they'll drag a sled for 6. He got me thinking.
When we were out there, not to cut you off, but when we went out there last time,
but still going to cut you off.
All of a sudden, dude, and I'm going to cut you off on this med ball thing because I want to fucking get this in because we get it in the podcast.
Charlie Francis med ball.
The Charlie Francis. I called this shit out on that. So we were over there, and I'm watching. He's got this track girl. And he's like telling me about this track girl, and I'm watching it, and I was like, Louis, are you fucking doing all the Charlie Francis med ball shit? Because I mean, I'm a Charlie Francis guy. I mean, that's how I found the EMS, and I know all that shit. Yeah. And Louis like looks over at me and he gives me that smile, and he's like, gives you that smile and goes on and keeps talking. And he's like talking about the med ball. I mean, dude, he's a Charlie Francis guy. I mean, the GPP med ball shit, all the throws, and then I start rapping with the girl. And she's like, "Oh yeah, Louis has me doing 300 to 500 throws a day," and he's like talking about the volume.
Wow,
it's exactly the Charlie Francis shit. So what? With Charlie, he would.
What about the guy who not invented, whatever? What's those med balls?
The Dynamax.
So I remember calling him years ago, and he said, "Yeah, it's just the light balls."
But that was all the Charlie Francis GPP med ball stuff.
He was training. He told me, he goes, "When I train the NFL guys, I don't go heavier than like the 6-pound ball."
Yeah.
He goes, CrossFit started this 20-pound ball. He goes, we use the 4-pound ball the most. All the throwing. It's
because you want speed.
Right.
That's where people
an
fuck
old
up.
video.
Like we use a 12-pound at when we train.
His name's Jim.
That's all we have.
Shit,
it's all we have. But if we had lighter balls, we would use it because the speed
partner
at which
throwing.
You can throw. If you do partner throws, you throw them, but then they come back and forth. And
he had them walking. Man, there was a video before.
He had a lot of reps.
I don't even know he had you.
Yeah,
he had a video.
They started 100 and they loaded.
What were those balls called?
Dynamax.
The Dynamax. So he had a video on his site where he was taking a track athlete. I'm not sure what if he was a runner or jumper, but the guy was doing all the from sitting down lateral throws, but he had him walking, moving. He was throwing the ball from his feet, so he's working like hip flexors, and it was this back and forth going, and I was like, amazing. I remember speaking to him before I even owned a gym, so it was probably 11, 12 years ago.
Well, but what we always like is the fact that you have all these different, planes of motion. Like you can do transverse plane and all these different throws, and you get all these, different things which people never do, and especially in the CrossFit shit, where everybody is like sagittal plane, bilateral hip hinge. Now you're having a situation where you're having people throw and they're here and they're tossing in different ways, and it's fucking great for conditioning.
Yeah.
But
In this last segment, Jim Steele discusses adding Muay Thai to his lacrosse programs to train transverse and rotational movements. Impressive and unique GPP coming out of this 20-year coach is not surprising in the least.
And we talked about combining different sports, and you took us through a tour of the gym. You showed us like Muay Thai room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the GPP med ball, but you were moving through all planes of motion, and now we're getting our legs involved, attacking the like a bag.
Yeah.
So kind of walk us through. I guess you were coach to adding Muay Thai to lacrosse players, wrestlers.
Well, lacrosse is a rotational sport, right?
Yeah.
So you can do the med ball stuff, or you can go out there and do, the roundhouse kicks, and you can do the boxing stuff, and it's.
So have you been doing that since '99?
Oh, I stole it from the Cowboys. So my idol Randy White did it in when he went to the Cowboys in the '80s, in the early '80s. I know Bob Ward was doing it with them, and he used to bring out Bruce Lee disciple guys. The one guy.
Was it Sato?
He's still alive. No, Dennis. Yeah.
Oh,
Dennis.
Santo.
Yeah. Dude, Rafael Ruiz, who's the guy that trained me in the NFL, and one of my best friends. He's a Filipino and does Screama, and all the Filipino combat systems. So we got what?
I'm just having flashbacks.
Oh, well, Rob is he's fucking crazy, and I love him like a brother. We got to go to this like martial arts deal, and they had Sato there, and he did like the 1-inch punch, and it was. He's fucking old, but he still knocked this motherfucker to the ground.
Really?
Yeah.
That must have been awesome.
It was great to see because it was all like this fucking hip extension.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Oh, it came
Yeah,
from the
that's
hips.
cool.
I just feel like that Muay Thai stuff you teach gets some of them to get fucking pissed off a little bit and get. I feel like some people they're nice in the way of coaches nowadays get fired if
Well,
they're
I tell
tough
you
on a
what,
kid.
you can tell right away who has played only one sport.
Yep.
And who has played a bunch
So
of
you're
sports.
building
The first time
athleticism.
you see them punch.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You take an offensive lineman who has you could tell never played basketball. I know you've never played basketball. The way they move and the way they go laterally or even back up when somebody's coming at them with the mitts, you can tell right away. They need that stuff. I think number one, it's hand-eye coordination stuff, especially with the mitts. The heavy bag's okay, but I would rather guys partner up and do the focus mitts. And the thing about that is the person who's holding the mitts is the most important person. You got to be totally locked in to what this guy's doing. And you got to be totally focused. And you have to make it's like, we used to say in football, give them a good look. You got to give them a good look, right? And that means you got to be right there with them, whatever they do, and so you don't get a break, but it's a hand-eye coordination. The conditioning is unreal. I mean, I used to, I've trained with I have a pro fighter who used to train me and used to beat the crap out of me. And, he'd say, okay, now we're going to start off with jump rope, and it's 3 5-minute rounds. It's the first thing you do. I was done. That's it. 3 5-minute rounds of jump rope, and I was done. Now, then you do the mitts, then you spar, and then you do all this stuff. I mean, it's brutally hard. So mentally, it gets you ready to do any sport that you want to do. And even if it's not quite in the energy system you're going to play in, it crosses over enough where guys are like, wow, that's really getting me in shape for what I'm going to do.
I used to fight with the Cal boxing team in the offseason.
Boxing, same thing.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And when a guy's coming at you, your stress level goes through the roof.
Well, I mean, it was perfect for offensive line because I learned how to cut out.
No question.
And so when I boxed when I was younger, that ability to cut off a dude in a ring, but also how to square up your body and then never square a dude up 2/3 and you take different shots and then the hand stuff. I mean, all of that.
And it teaches you distance.
Yeah, it teaches you how to judge distance.
The first time I sparred, I was like, I'd been in some street fights and stuff, and so you're just going crazy when you're street fighting. You don't even think about this. Then when you get in the ring, you're like, how do I reach him? How do I how do I get to his left? And how do I?
Well, you got to learn how to cut dudes off, which is offensive line play. You got to put your body between him and there, and how you cut guys off.
Yeah,
and then how you move and slide and push and
that's
push
a lot
and
of
do
sports. Lacrosse, especially, it's all about aim.
Right, because you got a lacrosse background, and you know that. Yes.
Boy, I always think you watch Muay Thai guys how they generate force, and I always laugh when I see the CrossFit with the kipping pull up is like
circle pull
is like the kick of Muay Thai when you watch those dudes spin and they generate so much force this way. And I always joked, I'm like, oh, it's like a Muay Thai kick, but in the air on a pull-up.
My favorite story is I was training with this guy. I mean, he's a badass, certifiable badass. And he wouldn't come out of the office while I was warming up or whatever. Then he'd come out. So one day he says, we're going to spar. And so I said, oh, do I need my shin guards and all that stuff? He goes, nah. You don't need all that stuff, mouthpiece, don't worry about it. He comes out of the office, shin guards, fucking mouthpiece. He's covered up, kicks the Have you ever been kicked by a pro fighter right above your knee? I was like, I got shot. I thought I got shot. I've never. And then I realized later when he kicked the bag, it was like a gunshot going off. He kicked it so hard, and you're so amazed by how much force he can generate in 6 inches. It's just like that hip snap, you know. And I was like, that's why it's so good for athletics.
Sure.
You know, it's so good. But yeah, he would just come out and beat the crap out of me. But you learn a lot that way.
Now it's time to empower your performance. Like what you've heard so far? Then you'll love tuning into Zach's continued conversation with Jim Steele on his Strong Life podcast, episode 100. It's linked in our show notes. Also, an excellent synopsis of the lessons learned during this recording can be found on Zach's website. An article titled 12 Things I Learned on a Never-Ending Podcast with John Welbourn and Jim Steele is linked to this blog post. This year's Power Athlete Symposium is now open to the public for the first time. If you haven't heard of this annual Knowledge Fest, it's basically the most badass 3 days spent in SoCal. Rub elbows with fellow power athletes and soak up the wisdom from guest speakers like Rob Wolf, Andy Stumpf, Aaron Ausmus, and Brad Snyder. Of course, you can expect that the Power Athlete crew will also be leading the weekend with the latest and greatest out of HQ. Registration can be found at powerathletehq.com/symposium and closes on November 23rd. Hope to see you there, and until next time, bye!